Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of Talent Talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, what would all of you like more of? Quality, quality, quality.
Go back, but they're also starting to, invest and innovate and grow.
That's where we should really be focusing instead of the bright and shiny.
Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of Talent Talks. We are together again. If you watched my last episode,
I'm back.
Right. Okay. So Chad Sowash and I, we were too busy partaking. We took too long talking about TA Tech. So we got right back together. We decided we were going to reward again and keep the drinks a flowing. So we're going to do like our prediction episode now. But before I get started, so because Chad and I tend to drink together, like even if it's virtually, I have something. So can you see this?
Oh, what is that?
That's a bar board. It's like a Joveo bar board.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sending it to you as a thank you gift.
Okay, so we have new Chad and Cheese t-shirts that are actually coming out, version 2.
Nice.
Automatically going to get one. Too easy.
Perfect, because again, if I had some Chad and Cheese flair, I would totally be wearing it right now, but I don't, so I'm not. So, if you weren't on our last episode, Jen is drinking Deep Eddy peach vodka. Chad?
The standard Fat Tire, very good craft beer. Enjoy it. Understand it's hard to call it craft. It's not a microbrew, but still, it's good beer.
I'm so not sophisticated in my beer drinking. Like, I look forward to when the hard ciders come out now, like the ones that I can buy at the gas station. I'm so not a beer sophisticate.
You do you.
I obviously. So thank you. If you are just joining us for the first time now, awesome. You should go back and check out the conversation between Chad and I about our TA Tech stacks and our ideas, what's good, what's bad. We throw some shade, we give some suggestions. It's a really good episode. It's a thing. So now we're going to talk about like the really fun stuff, right? The stuff that like we're looking into crystal balls, so nobody hold us to anything here. Don't buy stocks based on our recommendations. I don't know what sort of legal disclaimers we should have, but just like, let's just kind of say opinions, like ideas. Don't go spending your inheritance. We just got some ideas. So let's talk about like what's next for TA, right? Like obviously I'm super bullish on programmatic. That's why I left AT&T and I'm here at Joveo, right? Like besides programmatic, because we'll come back to that probably in the end, but like besides programmatic, like what do we predict? What's going to happen? What's COVID done to our infrastructure? Like how do we come back? Like Chad, let's just talk.
So I think the key word or key virus is COVID and how that's changed everything. So first and foremost, I believe that COVID has kind of like warp speeded us into adoption of tech because we have to do these types of things. This is our everyday now. We're more remote. I'm not sure that we will go back to the office the way that we were in the office, which is great because it was all like in 1950s, go ahead and stamp your card in and out every day. I know we've slowly baby stepped out of that, but this is, I think, warp speeded us out of that. So I think the adoption of technology is big. And this, so many companies have gone into the virtual career fair end of things. I don't think career fairs are ever going to be the same again. What do you think? Do you think people are going to stand in line with their resume to go do a career fair?
Okay, so two things.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did in the first place.
I know
those were the bane of my existence. Like they.
I have stories.
Amen. Okay, so sure, right? I'm all in on the virtual career fair. Here's my deal. It doesn't do away with the line. They're just standing in virtual lines now, right? Like there are a couple
of
that
tech. I've seen some really cool tech. That
me too.
It's not lying. It's not sending you to a queue and just sitting around and waiting.
That's good. There's a few. Heroes Jobs, I think, does a good job. There's a few others that like let you record something. Like I'm all in on that. Anything that's convenient for the candidate. But the reality is, career fairs were only effective because they helped the employer process candidates quickly. And my feedback is that is #fail, and you should fix the core problem, not the right. Let's just fix what's really wrong. So yeah, I'm all about that. And then you said something else on the prediction side, right? Like, so you said people are going remote, and we're not sure if we're ever going to go back to the old world and the old way of doing things. Like, I sure hope so. Do you know how much easier it is to find a data scientist anywhere as opposed to Boise, Idaho?
I just don't get it.
Right? Like, please.
It's like you can have the talent pool be this big or this big. It doesn't make any sense to me. The thing is, and I mean, this is kind of like somewhat off tech topic, but we're going to have to take a look at wages and what we're paying people that used to live in Silicon Valley who moved to Palm Springs. They're going to want to Facebook is looking at docking pay like 20%. There's going to have to be regulation that starts to address this new workforce, this new remote office setting that we have.
Which I think is fine, right? Like, I mean, big companies already do it with geo zones, and right, like it's already part of the comp structure. You just got to look at it a little different if you were a single centralized location.
It's just not cool. It's just not cool.
I mean, I live in Oklahoma. It's pretty cheap to live here. I mean, if you wanted to give me a Silicon Valley salary to sit here, by all means, I would be a baller.
Yeah, but I mean, I just don't want to devalue what you do as a human being for 8 hours a day and say that you're worth less than somebody who sits in Silicon Valley just because they're not smart enough to move the fuck out of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, I get it. So that's the downside, right?
Yes.
The upside is you can hire anybody. If you get to the point where you can hire anybody anywhere, yes, it totally changes the diversity makeup.
Well, and here's the cool thing. Talk to the CEO of HackerRank, and it was like, we don't have enough technology people to be able to do. He's like, no, we do. And his whole thought process was, obviously we have a huge base overseas, and we can tap into that so much better from a remote standpoint. And I agree. I mean, there are so many things that we should be doing. The conversations that were so uncomfortable before, they're still going to be uncomfortable, but until we have them, then we start to become comfortable with them.
And I mean, we go way back. I'm pretty direct, yeah. And the reality is, I don't care where the talent sits as long as the talent works, right? Like, and if by broadening that horizon, yeah, it does a couple of things, right? Like it adds some complication to your system, which, hey, reason to talk to Joveo. We can expand those jobs without changing it in your ATS,
Yeah.
Right? So there's technology to do some things there, but there also then becomes this opportunity to not let location settle your diversity indicators. I mean, just the difference in engineers from the Silicon Valley to LA, the availability is so stark that we could start to really accelerate like the gender diversification, particularly in technical roles. Like, I'm excited for that. You?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love the opportunity of being able to be more transparent on the types of individuals that we're pulling in from a diversity standpoint. I wish every Fortune 500 company actually posted their diversity stats so that they would stay accountable for those, and then take that next step on the wage side as well. I think that's the only way that we're going to get where we need to as organizations, where everybody feels like they're being treated fair. And when people feel like they're being treated fair and they believe in the purpose, they're going to work their ass off for you.
Amen. And like, it doesn't go like without me noticing that anytime we get on a webinar, we end at diversity at some point in time. Like, we circle the wagons and we are like, fair treatment, hire women engineers, right? Like, so I appreciate your passion for my love of diversity. Okay, so let's take it a step further, right? Like, so in this role, I've had the opportunity to be exposed to all different types of employers and companies, right? Some small direct employers, some staffing agencies, some RPO firms. Like, COVID really sort of tipped things, and some direct employers had to go down in staff. We have people still furloughed. Yeah. Like, how is prediction, right? How is that going to shift up the makeup of how we're servicing our vacancies?
Yeah, I think it's fairly simple that staffing is going to be the next step. I mean, and here's the thing, a couple of different reasons. We didn't see COVID coming at us. Okay. You get a pass. Okay. Talent acquisition, you get a pass. But you're not going to get a pass on is when hiring starts to tick up. Right? You'd better be ready for that. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. First and foremost, focus on your process and your technology and the data and people that you already have, candidates you already have. Number two, find a great staffing provider, because the difference between a staffing professional and a talent acquisition professional is that staffing this is their business. TA, it's your job. Mm-hmm. I would love to see TA bring it and really hold that business case close and treat this more like a business than a job. But until we get there, staffing is always going to be the fallback position, because they know that is how they make their money. And that is how they're going to ensure that you get the right people the fastest way they possibly can.
Okay. So super good point. And just earlier this year, I sat on a staffing RPO call for a staffing RPO agency, mm-hmm. right? Like a consortium of RPO agencies and staffing agencies. And, I was so pleasantly surprised at the focus on the efficacy of action, right? Like those are big words. I didn't mean to be that way. I've had a couple drinks, but really, like, it wasn't about, I posted the job, the people applied, I pushed them through to the hire, right? Like those are all very transactional job type things.
Yep.
Their questions really centered around, how do I make sure I have the right amount, not too many or not too few? Like what, they were really specific questions about, like, how much does it cost to put somebody in the seat? How can I compare? Right. Like really what I would call leading indicators and like some KPIs. Like, do you get a sense? I mean, you cross over all the industries. Do you get a sense that that's more developed on the staffing and RPO side?
Oh, easily, because again, that's their business. So if talent acquisition actually focused on being able to turn business cases every single day, use data every single day to be able to make that conversation, that narrative to the C-suite more about how it affects bottom line. Cost per hire is something we made up. The CEO doesn't give two shits about cost per hire. They look at you, they pat you on your head, they're like, that's a cute stat. At the end of the day, how do you take that cost per hire? How does that actually reconfigure into something that affects the bottom line? That's what we need to do. But staffing understands that right out of the gate. That's why they have entirely different discussions. Mm-hmm. Right out of the gate, they understand why, from a business standpoint, what they do, the efficacy of what they do impacts business. We don't do that. If I go to a Fortune 500 company today, look on their website and say, oh, that engineering position, how much does that cost you to leave open every single day? Mm-hmm. I won't get an answer. They don't know. That's a business answer. You should know that and that should be something that you're reporting up the line so that you can get budget to be able to make sure that you take care of it.
So spot on, right? Like, and as a TA leader, during my tenure, the need to hire transactional jobs like installers or retailer, those sorts of things, very important.
Yeah.
But the cost to do that and the financial benefit to the company varied greatly from an installer to a retail sales consultant, right? Like, what's the lost revenue on leaving a retail sales consultant unfilled?
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to have the data, and you have to understand the business impact of making or not making hires to be able to be a consultant. And that's where I land on staffing agencies, right? Like, I'm not hating on any direct employer. I think sometimes it makes more sense to do some things, right? Like, it just depends on your organization. Mm-hmm. But I have worked with a ton of staffing agencies and RPOs in my day, and I have come out of every single one of those engagements with somebody that I call on to do other things. Yeah. Right. And I mean, like, I'm just going to be real. I had one that was great that I hired to go work on my account at, my ad agency. I was like, hey, take Mandy. Right. Yeah. Like, so I feel like there's a lot of talent there. So just fist bump, huge shout out to staffing agencies and RPOs. We think you have your place and you're on your ball. So what else? Crystal ball. What else do we predict?
Whew, I wish that I thought 2021 was going to go so much different than 2020. I don't think it will. So I just hope that companies focus on what we're seeing today as the new norm. I know everybody hates the new norm, but just use that today to be able to understand scale. Because when everything does snap back, there are a couple of things you're going to have to really focus on heavily. Is, do you bring those individuals back? Number one. Number two, when you start to snap back and you start to rehire, how do you scale? Mm-hmm. Scale is the main thing you have to think about. You have to turn on a dime. The CEO is going to come to you and say, tomorrow, everything's ramping up. And then every single department in the organization is going to be on you. They're going to be on your shoulders.
Yeah.
You have to be ready to know how to scale on a dime tomorrow. If you can't do that today,
figure it out.
Another reason why you have to have a staffing partner close to you.
Yep. No, I think that's great. I think that mine would be the ability for great leaders to develop programs in the downtime that move things forward, right? In addition to what you said, because bottom line, if you're a TA professional and you can't scale when your clients come to you and say, like, we're back in business, trouble, no right?
Pass.
Like no pass. But like, I can just hear it now. What have you been doing for X months, right? Like, weren't you getting ready for this, right? So get ready for that. And some of the things that you don't have time for in the day-to-day of TA, like, take the opportunity to do those now. Do some journey maps, really look at what is it like to be a candidate, what do they see? But most importantly, all of those organizations and initiatives that were really about helping and finding good talent across all sorts of diversities, and not just females, not just people of color, also veterans, also people with disabilities, right? This is a really good time to evaluate programs in those spaces and get those set up to be part of your turn on strategy, right? Then it's not something special, it's part of your turn on strategy. So I feel like this is like a really good, my crystal ball thing here is like really, really progressive employers are going to find a way to work those programs into their daily practices.
Well, and I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second. You've never seen this before. So also those large companies who know that there are skills gaps that are out there, this is not upon the government to hand you charity. This is not corporate welfare. This is for you to be able to go out and either partner with your local university or whatever it is to be able to start pipelining candidates that have sponsor those individuals, get them in, pay the accreditations, whatever they are, but start to create those pipelines so that you're ready, not that you're waiting for, the next administration, this administration, whatever administration, to be able to fund and or find a way to gap, actually bridge the skills gap, because better than anybody. Go do it and do it now. We see some companies that are doing that, that have been doing it for years, and that's why they excel. Be that organization, and when you do that, here's the big key: you can make your pool much more diverse by going to more diverse universities, schools, community colleges, or what have you. And that's a great way to start building that entry level so that you can start pumping those more diverse managers up into your pipeline and your organization.
That's perfect. And with that, I'm going to close with two things.
Yes.
The first thing is, I'm just going to add on to Chad's soapbox, because nobody's ever heard me be on one of those either, Chad. And that is, when you're really looking at promoting and hiring those diverse individuals, internet access continues to be a challenge and an opportunity, and almost 60% of people accessing your job for the first time from their phone. phone, right? So making sure that you have good access in a mobile way for people to make a meaningful statement of interest, even if that's not a full application, right? I think that's super important. And the second thing is me just telling you that you are amazing. And we have done 2 episodes while we were cocktailing. So if you guys didn't see part 1, go see part 1. Mine is totally out, by the way. And during both part 1 and part 2, in different situations, you gave the same advice. And I just want to call you out on it because it's a good thing. Yeah. And the advice that you gave was to build talent pipelines, communicate with them, and use them as your first source of candidates. Like, you literally said that in a roundabout way in both, and add the diversity conversation to that. And like, I would say that is our takeaway, right? Like, be ready, pipeline, get the right people in that pipeline, take away the shiny baubles. Yeah. Don't necessarily have to backfill with your own employees. Staffing agencies got it, you know.
If I didn't have so many skeletons, I'd be a politician.
Truth. Okay, my Joveo bar board on its way. If anybody else is watching and like, I have a couple left, you can go ahead and like, if you set up a demo, let me know you set it up. I'll throw you out a Joveo bar board. And very Chad, nice. Yes. You're sending me new t-shirt.
It's the brand spanking new Chad and Cheese t-shirts.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you for being a fabulous friend. Thank you for being an awesome guest, and we'll do it again. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Later.
Bye.